Steve, aka Simply Outstanding, my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed, my guy. How are you?
I'm wonderful, man. I'm wonderful. Thank you so
I
much.
wish I wish I had a bookcase, man, because I'm looking at that, you know what I'm saying, how to be anti-racist, and I got all these black books on my countertop right here, and I'm like, oh man, like I wish I have that right now, but I don't. But I'm glad you have that, brother. I'm glad you have that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's a great read, man. I recommend it to everyone, everyone. But thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, man. This passion project, Panic and Patience. Essentially, Panic and Patience is really a platform for change agents, community leaders, community activists, those who want to do good by their community and the in larger society. And I see you as an amazing human being who has a lot of gifts and is always looking to give light, share their own light, but also put others in positions to shine. And, I am honored to have you on here because I think that a lot of the work that you've been doing as of late is um, really has an impact on the narrative of the Black community and the Black experience, particularly during the Black Lives Matter / COVID, movement that's happening in our streets. And so I'm really excited to have a conversation with you, man. I'm so humbled by your energy and by your gifts. So thank you.
The pleasure's mine. Trust me.
I'd like to start off this conversation by asking you to tell me a story.
Okay. If I were to tell you a story, it's about how I how I gave up on photography and how I got back into it.
Mm.
So this happened, I'd say probably close to probably 7 to 8 years ago. So, when I was I currently live in Lowell now. So I didn't have a car at the time. So it made it difficult for me to go back and forth. And if you know the train system here in Massachusetts, especially the commuter rail, every weekend it runs every 2 hours.
Mm.
And as a freelance photographer, freelance means I was trying to gain the experience. I wasn't getting paid a lot of money, but I would do things for free so I could gain that experience. And anyone who knows me knows I had a green duffel bag filled with equipment.
Yep.
My shoulders were hurting every time I got home, but
Mm-hmm.
those photos would always come out nice and I'd always be able to work, which I loved. The downside to that is because I'm doing free stuff, people can easily just tell me I can't make it. So now I'm stuck in the city.
Mm.
And I had a couple of those situations where it was just a snowball effect. I felt like everything was just, bad, then bad became worse, and then worse became just like, I can't. It just became unmanageable.
Yeah.
And it was hard, man. I didn't know where I was going with it. I was frustrated. I felt like other photographers were going to higher echelons, and I was still stuck in this stagnant place where I'm doing freelance while everyone else was going to a higher level. And, one day I said, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. And Cisco, Cisco.
Yeah.
I told Cisco, I called him like, hey man, look, I'm done. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, nah, you're not done. You can't give up. You can never give up. You got to stand your ground, man. No matter what happens, you got to punch through that wall. And I'm out. He's like, yo, if we have to shoot dogs, cats, insects, buildings, landscapes, we'll do it. And I was like, wow. That passion, that energy, that drive was no longer there. It was over for me.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks later, no lie, 3 weeks later, my buddy Ashan calls me and says, Steve, the photographer we have for our wedding isn't coming through. Can you photograph our wedding in Mexico? I said, dude, I don't have the budget for Mexico. I'm not in the right mindset. It's not going to happen. And we went back and forth and had the conversation, about a good hour conversation, until his soon-to-be wife gets on the phone and is like, Steve, you're photographing our wedding. Okay? No ifs, buts, we'll take care of everything. Don't you worry about it. I said, all right. but that spirit, that drive I had wasn't there. So I had to do some real soul searching, right? So I went to Triton Bookstore on Newberry Street, and I found this book randomly called The Art of Power. It was, I butchered this guy's name. It was by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's a Buddhist type of book where it teaches you to kind of focus your power more on the mental state, right? How to really use your mind and develop that and not think so much negatively, but more on the positive aspect, right? And I kept reading, and I try to when I read stuff, I like to correlate it with everything that's happening in my life, right? I still couldn't fit the dots. So I got to Mexico, got to meet all my friends, which was great, right? It was awesome. But that drive, again, still wasn't really there. And one day, the day before the wedding, I went out to the beach. I think it was like 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. The sun was coming up. I had a notebook, and I'm writing down just how I'm feeling, just about photography, because I knew full well if my heart and if that passion wasn't in me, those photos weren't going to come out right. I'd be in a lot of trouble if those wedding photos did not come out right. So what ended up happening was I realized, as any artist goes through, we go through this mental blockade, right? I like to call it quicksand. So for me, I was sinking like quickly, and this quicksand was pretty much up to my neck at this point. And then in the distance, I see a shadow throw me a vine, right? And I grab it, and I'm slowly getting pulled out. And then I realize that I got people backing me up, and I can't let them down. And the person that was pulling me out was my 3-year-old nephew at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I have to look at it in the context where everybody like Cisco and my peoples, they support me, which is great. But then there's a whole nother generation behind me. Like my godson and all those other kids who were like, I want to do this when I grow up. So now I had to look at me like, yo, if I give up on what I really love to do, then now all these other kids that I mentor, my nephew, my godson, now have the right to give up on what they love to do. You know what I'm saying? So I went back into it. First of all, the photos were amazing. They were phenomenal. They were super happy. And then that just reignited that whole, came back. That fire, that desire, that passion, it all came back.
And so what was the next project after that? Because I feel like that's that, like for athletes, when you hit that 3, you haven't been in the gym in a long time, and you're like, I gave it up. And then you hit that 3, it goes nothing but net. And then you're like, let me do a heat check. Let me see if I still got it, right? What was the next project after that made you say, okay, this is the thing. It wasn't just, a fly-by-night moment.
Yeah, so what's funny was, it was like Steph Curry. You know what I'm saying? After that injury, he came back and he was just wetting those threes, right? So before that, I was doing the no makeup stuff, but I stopped for a little bit because it didn't get the traction that I thought it was going to get. And then once that passion reignited, I went back to that. I killed it. Vancouver, went to Seattle, went to LA, most of LA, toured with my homegirl Jasmine to different states and cities, traveled to DR, Cuba, and really worked on that whole no makeup series in that context. And I photographed over 300 women because of it, man.
So tell me about that. Like, what's the no makeup series? What was the catalyst behind starting that, and then how have you evolved since then?
That came about because, well, the story behind that one, it's funny because I was on a train one day, and I've seen people that have done the no makeup thing where they photograph women without makeup, which is unbelievably great, and I love to see it. But one day the idea came to me because I was taking the train into work, old job, and I saw this young woman. It's 5:30 in the morning, mind you, so I'm trying to get some Z's while I'm trying to head to work, and I hear all this rustling in the bag, and I'm like, oh, what's all that rustling going on? And I see this lady like literally just, getting her eyebrows done and then using the eyeliner, and I'm like, yo, if the train ever stopped, her eye's gonna get poked out, And then I just thought to myself, I'm like, yo, the no makeup thing's been done, but maybe there's another way to kind of conceptualize it and really put it together. And what I did was, all the females I had taken previously, I had told them, can you send me a little blurb about why you wear makeup, why you don't like makeup, just your thoughts on makeup altogether. So everyone on that side has a particular story. And for me as a male doing it, I just wanted the understanding of what it meant to them and what it means to pretty much everybody else. And it's funny, I had a lot of people email me saying they loved it. The Huffington Post picked it up. Claire, I believe in the UK, picked it up. So it garnered the attention it needed, which is great. And it actually helped a lot of other people in the same process with self-esteem and just confidence.
And then how has it evolved since then? Because how long was the No Makeup series?
That probably, I'm talking about 7, 8, probably even 10 years, maybe more. Yeah.
Right. So you say 2010, it's 2020 now. How has your work evolved since then?
So I haven't really touched that series in quite some time, and I do want to bring that back. There are some new photography techniques that I definitely do want to work on, because originally my photo techniques originally in the beginning were, all right, I have my light, my 2 lights, flash, I have my backdrop, cool. And then it was only recently that someone told me this, like, Steve, some of your work is flat. And I didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of, how do you separate light from people? How do you work with light? How do you adjust it? Like everyone that comes in your life teaches you something different. Every mistake you make teaches you something different. So every photograph I took in the beginning, I felt like right now looking at it, it could have been better, but I was learning to hone my craft and develop how I want these portraits to look. So it started basically in my house, simple backdrop, 2 strobe lights, and I'm set. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, maybe I want to take this outside. How do I now learn to photograph with the elements? With the sun beaming down in your face, I have a reflector on hand. I have a strobe light, but I also have a battery pack with me. What are ways that I can do to enhance this photo so it really speaks volumes? I know right now I want to go back into that, but I also want to add some type of video element to it as well, which I have done previously before, but how to really tell those rich stories and really combine them together is, I think, the next, at least, evolution in where I want to take that series.
So it's interesting. So you talked about like storytelling and photography. It's like, that's not something that I hear often, the combination of the two, because I feel like photography is storytelling, but when you think of storytelling, it's either like in motion picture, or in sort of a magazine with words below it. But when you're just talking about just the pure essence of a photo, how does that speak to storytelling and from your perspective?
So I'm teaching a class right now for Madison Park. I want to say that I'm right on that, but I'm teaching a class right now with 12 kids. And I want to instill in those kids that you can tell a story through a photo. Because someone asked me, which is better, motion or photo? And I said photo. Everyone's interpretation of a photo is different. You know what I mean? Art is subjective, which is great because now that allows people to kind of see things differently. You may have
what they want.
Yeah, if I take a picture, right, you may have a different meaning and it may mean something to you, but to me, it may mean totally something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's still something, right? Whereas a moving picture, that is great to see, but there's so much going on in that. There's no quick snapshot for you to really take your time and embrace and take in all the vibrant colors. Even if it's black and white, how does the dark contrast with the light? There's so many things you can look at, the detail, the finite detail in pixels. There's a lot you can tell. Even in the eyes, when you see the light reflected on people's eyes, that tells you something. How are they looking? You know what I mean? Do you feel like there's a tear in their eye? Or how are they smiling, Every frame in a photo, if you take a picture of someone trying to smile, you take a frame, there may be a certain shot that you may like, but then there may be another shot that I may like. But that tells a specific story at a specific time. Like when you look back at your family pictures, it's a snapshot. And you look at that and now you have that memory and it just resonates with you. Because I'll give you a perfect example. when I take wedding photos, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you think people look at their wedding video as opposed to their photos?
They probably look at the photos way more.
Way more.
Mm-hmm.
Because videos, it's great, it's cinematic. I mean, I love it. But people always resonate with photos.
Okay. Okay. And so with your photography work, and obviously, as you just mentioned, you're working with young people, you're shooting weddings. How have you found ways to build community through your work?
I mean, one of the things I instill in people is to network. So
Mm.
when I started in the clubs. I started in the clubs shooting at Rumor Venue and all those, Underbar, all those type of nightclubs. But I was able to really network with the promoters, network with the people. Other people had other connections. They would introduce me to other people. And in its pure essence, that's how I was able to build my community. And even more so, the people that have always supported me, because they would always bring me into different events that focused on nonprofit work, community development, events surrounded up around people of color. So that just allowed me to just build that bridge to allow me to just network with so many different amazing people.
Okay, dope. And so as of late, you've shot a lot of things centered around protests and Black Lives Matter movement, whether it's downtown or in Roxbury and such. What was your reasoning behind capturing those moments? And I noticed what I loved as well, they're shot in black and white, which I absolutely love. What was is it a project that you're working on, or you just wanted to capture the moment because this is the times that we're in, or what was the reason behind essentially in some ways, risking your own health and safety to capture those moments, whether it be sickness from COVID, or whether it be, being a Black male in the streets during a protest, there's a risk. And so to be able to risk that in the name of your creativity, in the name of your art, what was the purpose behind that for you?
So I'll start off by saying, in terms of risk, as a Black man, do I have to worry about COVID? For sure. But also as a Black man, I also have to worry about the police.
Mm-hmm.
I also have to worry about systematic oppression, racism. It's around me. No matter where I go, it's a double-edged sword, right? I'm not gonna win. So the reason I went out to these protests, and I'll be honest, when George Floyd died, I didn't even know what was going on. I was making sancocho in the kitchen, and I was looking at my phone. I'm like, oh, there's like chaos in Minneapolis. I'm like, rioting in Minneapolis. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm gonna work on my sancocho right now.
Yeah.
It was finished, dipped it in. I'm like, all right, let me look at my phone. And then I see the video. Dude on his neck. And I took a step back. I'm like, yo, shit's real. Like, for real, shit is real. And, I think when Trayvon Martin died, I think after that, I think everybody was a little numb to it. Not everybody, but most. At least I was numb to it, because you see it all the time. You hear about it and you're like, what can we do? What can we do? But with George Floyd, for me, it was a wake up. For me, it was, I need to do something. I just didn't know what it was. So the protests started to happen, the riots started to happen, and I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at everyone on a megaphone, and they're like 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, speaking up for their rights, speaking up for individuals that look like us. I'm 40 and I haven't done as much as a lot of these kids in these streets are doing now. And I couldn't idly sit back at home and not do my part. I said to myself, okay, my skill set's photography. What can I do with that to promote what's happening? Because in the media, they're always saying, oh, people are looting and rioting. I'm like, that's not right. That doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
There's disconnect here. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to take pictures. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to amplify these kids' voices, everyone that's in this march, and showcase, one, it's peaceful. Two, that everything they're saying is absolutely justified.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my main reasoning. I'm not trying to make a book. I'm not trying to, make profit out of all of this. No, if I make a book, all that money is definitely going to go to Black Lives Matter movement. I want nothing to do with it. It's more about the people, which I've always been a proponent of. I'm a proponent of community. I'm a proponent of people of color. It's literally about amplifying everybody's voice in this particular era and time.
And so now what? For you, now what? I mean, the protests have happened. You have taken the photos. As someone who is clearly impacted and affected by George Floyd and all the things surrounding his death, now what for you?
Well, for me, I continue on. Nothing, I know a lot of people we're going to go back to the new normal, but for me, it's not normal. Right now, it's really about making sure, we still say her name, Breonna Taylor, you know what I mean? DJ Henry. This is not over. For people that are going to think, oh, we're going back to normal. No, at least I'm not. Because this affects people that look like me. I wear this skin 365 days a year, 24/7. I don't get to take a break from this. It's a constant struggle and a constant fight. And is it tiring? Absolutely. Is it my place to educate people? No, it's not. But I have to do my part as a person of color. I have the skill set. I'm a firm believer. If you have a skill set, you have a responsibility. I don't know what your skill set is, but you have a responsibility to put it out there to the masses and do something worth it. Do something good. If you're a writer, write something. Go out there, interview people. You don't even have to go out there. Zoom call them.
Yeah.
You can talk to anyone on Facebook about these issues and have a conversation and dialogue. And if you're having that healthy conversation, that means you're going to have, if you're having that healthy dialogue, that means the conversation is going to be amazing. That also means that you're giving yourself an opportunity to educate yourself, and the other person that's reciprocating the conversation is also being educated as well. So, yeah.
Okay, dope. And because you had that moment in your career where you wanted to give up and you wanted to not share your gift, because you just said you have a responsibility, right? Particularly if you have a skill or a gift, however you want to label it, you have a responsibility to make the world a better place because of that gift, right? For a young photographer who's out and trying to find their footing, trying to get on, trying to make a difference, trying to create opportunities to express themselves in ways that maybe they've never done before, what advice would you give a young Black photographer in these times trying to make an impact?
Damn, man. I hate giving me these good questions, huh? I guess the advice I would give them would be to, one, be safe. That's first and foremost, right? If you're going to go out there, have a mask on. If you're going to go out there and take photos, do it with the intent to make change. Do it with the intent to give not only yourself a voice, but other people a voice as well. Because most people that, when I started photography, I wanted to get in for the money, But if you have that gift and that skill, stick with it. Use your network. Listen to your support, the people that are supporting you. If you want to use your haters as an amplifier to make you do good, sure, do that too. I mean, I have, and it's worked beautifully. I can tell you that story later. But, do things with good intentions, I guess would be one of the things I would say to them. Be safe and just do good with your work. Make sure it's authentic to you. Don't kowtow to anybody. Oh, it needs to be like this. If you feel your work is good the way it is, cool. I mean, it may need some refining. Sure, you can always get constructive criticism. Make sure it's authentic to you and it speaks to you and it speaks volumes to everybody else.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your gifts. please continue to share your gifts and to capture those expressing and sharing their gifts. As a photographer, you capture moments, and that is a gift that can be passed on from generation to generation, because that image of that person doing that thing is timeless. And so I just want to let you know that I love you, brother. I see you, brother. You matter, and I'm blessed to know you. So enjoy the rest of your day, my G, and I will talk to you soon.